Rookie. Oh, you got the Bucha on deck?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Katie Ledecky, I see you.
Also, I'm ready to go if you know.
Oh, yeah. We good. Yeah.
Because, you know, we be sitting here doing this podcast and, like, we be trying to, like, have everything all clean and neat and nothing on the table and shit. But in all reality, like, that's fine. Like, sometimes we'll have drinks on here. That's fine. And today, I'm gonna eat these tacos.
Is this all justification for you eating tacos?
No,
That
no,
nobody,
just,
I'm about to say that nobody said you couldn't have. We were drinking wine and shit.
This is me just letting you into what be going on in my head when other people be talking sometimes.
Okay.
That's the thing about iPhones. They make everything real easy, but they also make you lazy about changing a whole bunch of settings and stuff.
No bullshit.
I used to be an Android head. So I used to like mod my phone and through my computer and all that stuff. But then when I finally went over to iPhone for like full time, I used to be having default ringtones and whatever.
Same thing here. I used to, like, when I was young, I used to customize the shit out of my things. And I'm like, whatever. It's like, I can even notice when sometimes when my clients, I'm like, oh, I could tell by how it vibrates. I'm like, oh, they got an iPhone.
Yeah.
But you know, the cool thing is I went into like my little settings and I went to see, I was like, what am I paying for? Like in my subscriptions?
Yeah.
Bro, I was paying for wild shit I do not use anymore.
Oh,
I feel like I cleared out like $60 dead money. Just
that's a lot. I've had instances where, like, you know, I try to trial out and something, and it checked like a week too late, and I've been charged for it once or twice, or no, there's a couple of things that are going for a couple of months, but like $60 in 1 month, like that's a damn.
But here's the thing.
I'm glad you found me.
But here's the thing. If like so. I was subscribed. DC had its own streaming service at first.
Yeah.
But then that got rolled into HBO Max.
But they didn't
but they still billed your ass if you wasn't, you know. So I was
still get all like access to other stuff like the comic books and all that.
Yeah, they give you, but I'm not doing that. So I was there for the shows. I was there for, like, you know, Harley Quinn anime series and shit.
I feel you. If you were gonna read comic books, you would probably have to cast it to your TV.
Yeah, so I was like mostly on some, let me go ahead and do, you know, let's get ready to that. And then I was like, because you get in the habit of like, all right, you delete the app, you think you delete the subscription. No, you just deleted the app. You got to go into that jump. So yeah, it's always funny how stuff is easy to get rid of, but then you got to know how to get rid of it type shit. So,
so, you know, I used to work at Apple. I was an Apple Care advisor, so when you call over the phone, something wrong with your phone or your computer or whatever the hell it is, good chances are you're going to get me. There was a point in time where I switched over to iTunes Store. So for 10-hour shifts, I used to field calls like, oh my God, my son was playing with my phone. He opened Candy Crush and bought $400 worth of gems or some shit like that. You know what I mean? So part of my training was really like knowing that whole part of phone front and back. You know what I'm saying? Like where you go to change the payments and the subscriptions and like how exactly they work and just being able to spit that shit off the top of my head to people that was having problems. So you got to be able to like, you know, calm people who are having both issues, both who like had it before and did it again and can't get a refund, and people who are doing it for the first time. Or sometimes people will call up and be like, hey, they said I can't buy any more coins. You know what I'm saying?
I need my fix, daddy. I need my fix.
So it sucks to like sit there and like, you know, see when that shit happens to people. Cause like when you know it, like it's not that hard to get to, but it's not something you ever gonna go into every day. So like, how could it ever like enter the lexicon inside your own head? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I was like, in my head, I was like, all right, there'd be times where I'm like, all right, I need to consolidate expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Not because money's running low. It's just, you know, you're like,
I could be doing better.
I could be doing better. So got rid of some of the, on my OnlyFans, I got rid of some of the people I was following. And then
You know what? I didn't even think about that because like that shit probably add up, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got like that 4 people, and then like a couple months later, there's another 3, 4 added to that. And
I was like,
a few
oh.
months later.
Yeah, it'd be like, yeah, you start off with like 1 or 2, and then it's like, oh, but Tasty Cakes. But wait, like Tasty Cakes, maybe maybe let me see what she's doing. And then, like I said, you'll get around to like trying to unsubscribe, but then you'd be like, but that photo was kind of fire. And but so then it's like, all right, but I got it. I've at the last podcast, I realized how depraved I was, and I was like, well, I need to
depraved.
I need to get my life back together. I'm gonna take charge, okay? No, I was just like, let me just consolidate this. So the cool thing is that some of this stuff, some of those financial decisions I make, because sometimes they'll have like 3 months for like a special kind of deal. So you can't.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
You're good. So if it starts off in December, it doesn't end until March. So
how are you supposed to remember that shit?
It has a little thing it says expires on this. So if you don't have the rebill on, you know what I'm saying? You know, but some people I was like, oh, that wasn't really a good decision. Some of them were. And so now I'm just like really consolidating it and getting, because like when you start, like I said, it became a habit.
Yeah.
And that's how habits start. It starts off with like, it's like placing bets. This is how I can expand the whole conversation.
I got a good parallel too. Video games, especially nowadays where like a lot of stuff's cloud-based. If you have like Xbox Game Pass, like I do, you get access to like a few hundred games at a time that you pay $15 a month to access. A lot of them joints be, real old games and shit, but there's a really good amount of them that are like for the newest consoles, like, Guardians of the Galaxy came out in October. I was able to download that joint last week, and I started playing that. But when you have stuff like that where like you're not shelling out a whole bunch of money or going into a store or ordering online to wait for the game to get to your house, you can just get all the stuff and have it. You could probably start to build up a few bad habits like buying games. Oh, this joint's only $5. I always wanted to play that joint back in the day. That'd been me at a couple points. You know what I mean? Same kind of deal. You just gotta like, even though it's something that you like and it's like taking up your time in a constructive way, filling something that you need, giving you something that you need. It's all that. It can get to be too, like, there's such thing as too much of a good thing. So, like, sometimes you do got to, like, scale it back to make sure it fits in within the parameters of your own life.
If nothing else within the past year or two has illustrated that the justice system is just a system. It's not a moral compass. It's not something where you can be overly reliant on saying, well, this thing says this, so this must be so.
Yeah.
If people, that should have been learned during OJ, but like if people were going to look over it like, oh yeah, like Jussie obviously lying is out, and, and Bill, who's obviously was out here being a scumbag, obvious is out on technicalities. This is just the system, and we need to understand that a system can be manipulated. It can be necessary. It can't necessarily be a moral converger of like what you think life should be. It's just literally it's man-made, so it has flaws.
Because the way Jussie's situation played out, I think from what I read, right, he got out. But he very well could just go right the fuck back in 6-7 months once they finish doing whatever. I forget what it is. He could end up getting charged a few months down the road. You know what I'm saying? It's just like they're like, all right, we're going to let your ass out. You know what I mean? Because, like, I understand that, like, you worried about some shit being up in here. But let me tell you, don't be getting out here, hitting these streets like that because we could snatch you up, playboy.
You know what? Hopefully, while he's out, he learns how to do some, like, cooking.
Yeah.
So that because I think a good way to survive in jail is like, be someone like help cook for other people.
Yep. I guess so.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you, like he needs to learn how to be like good at cooking grilled cheese and, cause like you don't see him in there like, like what is that Lil Nas X video running the joint, right? Like you don't see that. You see him like, either he learns how to do people's hair, or he learns how to. What's up? What?
No, give me nothing.
It comes off like a joke, but he's never been in jail.
Yeah.
He does not know how. He's never really been in that environment. Like we said last episode, he comes from like a showbiz environment. I just wish he would stop with the whole black power fist stuff.
That blew me. Yo.
That stuff just needs to stop. Like, because for me, it's just it's not productive. It's not what happened here, and that probably needs to go away.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with that symbol. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that makes me want to see you in jail. Like,
yeah, like for real. It's like, oh no, what he got? Somebody need to go put him back in there right now.
Yeah,
like I feel you. Yeah. When he first got sentenced that first day, and all news reports had that picture of him with the fist up above that headline.
I said that to you too.
I was just you did. And like I remember sitting there like, I guess I'm right about how I was feeling. Like he needed to just be in there for a little while, get his head straight.
I just feel like at a certain point it just got to stop. Yeah. But I just wanted to give a quick little update on on our favorite superhero.
Our favorite superhero.
But he carries himself that way.
Faking man.
Yeah.
I know I want to travel at some point though, because there's gonna be a summer where I think that I'm like we're gonna be able to. It's gonna be a little different, so I do want to travel, whether it's in the country, out the country. But I want to take at least like a couple of trips this summer, just me and Chris, and depending on where we go, maybe them dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man,
I felt like 2020 summer was like. I was escaping from jail literally because it was for me. I was
opening back up.
Yeah, I was like everywhere, and I was at Burke Lake. I was like at this joint called Great Falls.
Oh yeah,
just doing some random shit. Yeah, like I wasn't even there. Like
you just outside.
I was just outside.
Yeah, you know when like a few months into COVID, when people thought the first time it was kind of easing up, and everybody was like, "Oh, we gonna be back outside." Like niggas was just doing stuff. And then, but I feel you. Like, people's probably, I wasn't doing nothing, but I know a lot of people who was just doing random shit they don't usually do.
But it wasn't even like I was doing it like, I'm excited. It was almost like freedom.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
so I'm going to do it.
So I wasn't even looking at it like it was lit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it was just like, okay, I'm outside. I don't have to wear my mask everywhere else I do. So it was always, I never felt secure. I always felt like, oh, death is around the corner. Gotta be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like 2021, like outside of this, like, you know, like the things I had to do for this thing to take off, like I ended up losing like 2 really close friends, and it was like that really kind of nuked my whole like the crew I'd be hanging out with.
Dang.
Yeah, no,
I didn't know all that happened. Jesus.
Well, here's the thing.
Damn, yo, what the fuck? I walked in this like I'm very privileged. Apparently, walking into this shit.
Well, here's the thing. And I was watching Michael Jordan's documentary during COVID and The Last Dance, and he was talking about what it took to be successful or what it took to become himself.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, he understands some of the reputation he had with his teammates, and he was like, if you wanted to do it a different way, you can, but this is how I did it.
Yeah.
And he was, and you could tell in his eyes, you know, Michael Jordan crying face meme, he kind of had a little regret about how he treated people.
Yeah. I remember that one episode. It was at the very end, like it literally like he was about to start crying himself because he was like, damn, yo, a lot of motherfuckers hate me. And it's really just because I was an asshole to him, you know, like.
And he's like, I need to take a minute, and he just got up and walked away. And that resonated with me because I thought to myself, what it takes to actually do something that's out of the norm or do something to get successful, sometimes that's going to require making decisions that are going to alienate people that are right next to you.
Yeah.
In starting this podcast, I had to, I was pushing them real hard at work to even get Sundays off.
Yeah.
And I was pushing them real hard to do that. And then, like, I was battling that. And then people wanted my time elsewhere. And I was like, all my energy is here.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to do this right now.
I'm trying to do this right now. And for lack of a better phrase, all what you're talking about is a distraction. Because if I do what you're doing, I don't feel like I'm gonna be able to get this done over here.
Yeah.
And when you say when you've been making people a priority for a long time and you did no longer make them a priority, they're gonna feel a way about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're perfectly right for feeling a way about that. But I couldn't be sitting here. It's like what Jordan said. You may be able to do it a different way, but here's how I did it.
Yeah.
And you would like for people to be understanding about that, but if they're not, it goes back to what we were talking about before with things and, dealing with people and trying to, trying to say with, as far as with cutting things. I wasn't trying to cut people out of my life, but I was trying to say, hey, could we do this at another time?
Yeah.
Like, I know you want to spend time with me, but I can't do that right now. And then when you try to come around later and say, hey, I'm ready now. And
they like, oh, nah, this man, I thought he was big stuff before.
Yeah.
Now he want to come back.
You missed my 30th birthday party. What was that about? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It becomes that kind of, it gets personally involved. So that's why I say, like, and then, because one person is closer with somebody else, they roll with the team. And so that's how you end up losing two people over an issue. And you're like, well, I still want to be doing this. I still feel fulfilled by this. And, you hopefully you want to take everybody with you, but sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing about when people, it's not doing something that they're uncomfortable with is what the issue is. It's like, you still had a whole life that you were doing before. And then when you try to do something different, is everything going to remain the same? Or are things going to be a little different? Or do you have to reorganize? And is everybody going to be cool with that? And so, I think for me, I like this summer, getting back to the topic, I like this summer because it feels like, all right, I've reorganized things. I have, people around me that I've met during this process that accept this part. And are, and I don't have to worry about dragging them along or, because like this is pretty much doing what it needs to do. So it's nice to have options.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? It's like, okay, I can hang out with this person or I can do this and I can go here and do that. So for me, like the time got set forward last Sunday. Days are starting to get a little longer around here. The weather's starting to get nicer.
I got to get back on a basketball court. Like, I got to go ahead and join a gym this summer and, like, start shooting and shit again because I'm trying to play, and that's the only way I can stay in shape. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to get back in the gym, do a little bit of lifting, get on the basketball court, hit some threes and some faces,
Do what makes... I feel like we've all put a lot of things to the side during this whole time.
Yeah.
That stuff that we used to do before and things that we used to enjoy before that was, like, no longer a thing. The time I spent going to King's Dominion with the boys, the time I spent bowling, the time that we spent lying about going, well, not us. Yeah, not us in general, but like the time to the point where girls had to come with us.
I'm going to go ahead and absolve the two people at this table of any wrongdoing because like, there was. And, I'm going to talk about this shit because it was funny and whoever can get mad about it can get mad about it. But we'll go out sometimes, all the guys.
I started it. Be mad at me.
Did you really start that?
No, I'm saying I started the conversation.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay,
I'm the one that was like people were lying, but then you're caught already. What the fuck?
Yeah, okay. All right, I get you. You good, man. So anyway, we used to go out, be a group of us, like maybe 10 of us in 2 cars, shit like that. We all be packed together. And like for whatever reason, there's a couple people in our group who just felt it was the right thing to do to just straight up lie to the girl about where they was going. And it would be stupid because we wouldn't be doing nothing for real, right? And they just like pick up the phone. I'm about to go to sleep. Try to act like they're sitting in the backseat of a car with a music blasting, some dumb shit like that, And at some point, we were about to go out some night, and somebody was like, "We should go to a strip club." And one of the guys was like, "Yeah, but what I'm gonna tell my girl," and then somebody was like, "Yeah, just tell her we going bowling," and like that became like a saying for the longest time. I always thought it was so fucking dumb, like it was so stupid. But that's been like a running joke forever. Even after people stopped. It was only mentioned ironically.
Yeah.
It's still like funny. Like y'all niggas is dumb, yo. Y'all was dumb back then.
No, guys are dumb. Cause okay, now she doesn't trust you, and now she's everywhere. And I was like, yo, fam, being the guy like the always being the single. Is a funny story. So I had a friend that was wanted to meet my friends from around the way. So I had her come over, and so she had a big butt or whatever. So she was like laying face down on the carpet, looking at her phone. And you know what? You know who we hang out with. They're about as subtle as like a hammer and a tool, right? So they're staring at her, and one of them said to her, "I think you need to turn over because all of them are looking at your butt." And she was just like, "Yeah, whatever." And then the other girlfriend that was there looked at each other, and then they were like, "I think it's time for us to go." Big fight from there to the car about just that, because it's, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, because, and it didn't need to be that way.
Yeah,
because it wouldn't have been that way had this whole bowling thing not been you know.
Like that just became like the vibe for some of these niggas, and like it's just like, yo, why are you doing that, yo? Yeah. On one hand, on the other hand, like it's really not that hard to not be like all rubbernecking and shit when like you don't need to be. You know what I'm saying? It's not that difficult.
No, it's not. But here's the thing. It goes back to what we were talking about with Mimi last week. If you know your partner, you know what triggers them, you know what doesn't.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Like, guys, don't be dumb guys. If you know that's what triggers them, don't be like, you know what I'm saying, in the corner. Yeah. Like,
your girl's the one that like ultimately said that. Like you knew that she would notice something like that. You know what I mean? Because you're around her all the time. Yeah, like...
And if you've given her reason to give you pause because you lied to them, then what are you doing?
Yeah, after like so many instances, like she knew that when you called and told her that she was about to go to sleep, that the music was loud as shit in there. And she heard the motherfucker talk about, "Put your pants back on" in the background, because we was all like, you know, kids, basically.
Come back to bed.
Yeah, all that dumb shit. Like, she heard all that. And you sitting up here like Ron Burgundy and Anchorman when he called Corningstone from the other office and was like, "We got your pregnancy results back." And then he was like, "I think she bought it." You sitting there like that looking dumb.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's really crazy how stupid we all were back then.
Yeah.
But you know, everything's a learning experience. And I think in life, I learned that I was like, wait, there are consequences to actions. Even though, you know, if you would have just been honest from the very beginning, you wouldn't needed a chaperone.
Yeah.
There may be a time, and I told this to Mimi once, it's like, there may be a time where I need you to believe in something that I cannot physically show you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where faith comes into play.
You know, the part of the TV show where usually when the main characters got like powers they're trying to hide or some shit, and they did something wild and they're trying to tell their best friend, but they can't spill all the beans yet. And they're like, "I just need you to trust me. You have to come with me right now." And then that person's got to decide, right? They got to make that decision based on like what they've seen out of you before.
Yeah, and I think that most of the time people think that trust is built over time.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I don't when like a woman tries to tell me, when a woman tells me her, I know, right?
Try to tell me to put my goddamn socks in the goddamn hamper. I tell her, "Well, goddamn it, I say they go right there because that's where I can remember when I go wash my drawers."
Now go back in the damn kitchen. Like, no, when a woman is informing me of something, I know that sometimes it's not my place to try to solve it. It's not my place to try to fix it.
Yeah, like when they bring a problem to your plate, they're saying that there's an issue. It's not always like, they're not saying, "Hey, I want you to fix this," and then go into it. Like, that part wasn't actually there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I wasn't asked.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, because I notice this, sometimes I want to talk to a woman about my issues or what's going on with me. And she like immediately snaps into, "Well, here's how you gotta do." And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, this is where sometimes this is what's reciprocated back towards them. Sometimes they are like, okay, this is the way to communicate.
Yeah, this must be what he wants.
Yeah, and it's like, no, I want the thing that sometimes you want from your people you're good with is I want just someone to listen and to let me know that okay, I understand. I've heard you. I'm coming to you vulnerable. I need that vulnerability not fixed. I need that vulnerability heard and listened to and respected and remembered. So that maybe if I do something later on that's a little edgy, maybe it's like, okay, I understand he's going through this and he's not, I'm his outlet.
Right.
And being a proper outlet for someone is not fixing something for him. Like if they ask you, hey, how do you think I should handle it? Then you can get into that.
You ever talk to somebody about a problem and the first thing they want to do is like, well, how much money you need to borrow or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, like, I get what you think you're doing, but you're doing the opposite, dog. Like, that's not that, like, in my head, if somebody's doing that to me, it's like they don't really like care about the issue, but they do want it to go away. Not so much because like it's gonna make me feel better, but so they don't have to hear about it because what we doing right now is not that. You know what I'm saying? That's what it feels like. But people like there's a lot of people out here who think that like, throwing their money or material, whatever, is like the issue to everything.
And I think also, and here's the thing where both males and females need to also, it's like, communicate what I just said. I don't need you to solve this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will do something and they won't know that they're doing it. They're just playing the okay, manual here. Here's how someone expresses problem. Here's an answer.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, and then when you do that, sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm not fulfilled here. You're not, I don't feel listened to. And it's like, well, have you told them how you want to be heard?
It goes like both ways, like you got to really know who it's like if you're going to somebody with a problem, you got to know who you're going to, you know what I mean? Like
that's true.
If I go to, my sister with a problem about something, I got to attack it different than if I go to one of them coworkers that works in that office that I never go to. You know what I mean?
No, that's
like,
true.
If I had to like bear something and I have to become vulnerable to my coworker, I'm probably gonna say, yo, I gotta holler at you about something real quick. Like this shit really sucks. I just need to like tell you about this real quick. Should probably preface it with that because like we don't have that kind of relationship, right? But if I go to my sister and I'm like, dog, what the? You ain't never gonna believe what happened. Like, she probably know that I'm not asking her to fix nothing because like I've known her since she was pooping in her diapers.
And guys are only gonna go to but so many people to be vulnerable with anyway. It's not like
most of us,
we're not about to just.
Not a lot of us operate like that.
Yeah, and I feel like women are a little bit more comfortable in that communal sort of, not therapy, but sort of sharing.
Yeah. Like both being vulnerable and accepting other people's vulnerability and trying to like help smooth it out with the other person the way that they want to be, like that. And, we always talk about a lot of the men and women shit. And like, that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of people be missing is like the stuff that actually is different about men and women. It be like going together. It can create some real good balance. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. A lot of times when people get into, male-female relationships, and that's really what I know about, they'll just butt heads because neither one of them wants to give any of that up.
Yeah, and I feel like the compromise is kind of the word that goes into that. And like I said, learning how to compromise, being good at it, and understanding that that's not a term of defeat.
Like I had to actually learn that like when I had to learn on my own that when I go and respond to a problem like that with a solution, sometimes it can actually be taken completely as the opposite. You know what I mean? Like not a solution, but a hindrance almost. You know what I mean? Like it sets the situation back.
Goes back to what you said about how much money you need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like if say I had like a shoe rack I was supposed to set up and she asked me like, she could do it herself, but she was like, hey, do you mind putting that together for me? And I'm like, yeah, cool. I'll do it. And then like 6 days later, she's like kind of upset, like, why didn't you like you need I have to ask you to do this like a week ago. Like we always go through this. You always say I'm gonna do it and then don't do it for like a long time or ever at all. You act like you forget about it. And then I go in there and start putting the shoe rack together right then and there. Oh, that'd probably be the worst thing you could possibly do in that situation, right?
Because it's not because the problem isn't the shoe rack.
Exactly.
See,
but like in your head, you're thinking, "Oh God, I didn't put it together. Let me do it now." But like, that's already done. Yeah, like that's over. That's over. What you need to do at this point is just hear what she's saying, tell her you're sorry, and like be better in the future. And then like maybe later on that evening, put the shoe rack together.
I thought they did a really great job. Well, mainly of casting it, because a casting will make or break a series. When I remember I told you I saw Tasty in there. I was like, "Yo, all right, I'm sold." Because and then when they played her character, she was like this oblivious. She was kind of more like Peacemaker, and they kind of bonded in the sense that they were outsiders within the group.
Yeah, they didn't really know what they was doing per se. Didn't feel like they were belong there and all that.
Yeah, so I appreciated that. I liked how everybody brought a different thing. And I like how it felt like everything they said made sense. So even when you start talking about Graybeard, I like how that came back up in the final episode to where that meant something.
Yeah, and how it all tied into the whole entire group, like their whole like relationship and all that. Yeah.
And I thought that that's important because, like I said, it seems innocuous at first and it's played for jokes, but then what if somebody doesn't take it as a joke? What if somebody really feels? And I think they were great at hitting you over the head with something with the soft mallet. Yeah. And I think that's the good thing about the show is, John Cena showed acting chops I didn't think he had.
Oh, yeah. He did.
And he showed, like the scene, I thought one of the most important scenes in the show was when he was like on the bed beating himself up for like being like, why can't you be better? Why can't you be different? And it's like, well, that's a super relatable scene because people may not do that to themselves on the bed, but like people have realized that why am I being a dick in this situation when I'm really not trying to be that?
Yeah, I don't have to do all that.
So, what about you? What do you?
Yeah, no, like there's a lot of good stuff. Like all the stuff you just said, like, also like this is one of the only TV shows I've ever watched where I never, ever, ever skip the intro. Oh, yeah. I always watch the intro all the way through. Do you really want it? The whole dance, that shit is tight. But I like what they did with John Cena, like how they had like all this whole group of characters evolve or whatever. I also like what they did with Vigilante.
Yes,
because like I don't really know much about him from the comic books, but he's a totally different character than he is in Peacemaker. But I did know Vigilante from Arrow. I watched Arrow on the CW all the way through. And, he's nothing like this character. And usually something like that is prime for, like, scrutiny. But even that character was, like, that dude was hilarious. He's hilarious.
Yeah,
and,
he's
like,
great.
He fit in there, like, just where they needed him to.
And they did a great job at, like, they didn't go too much in his backstory too much. And they left room. A show always has to leave room for growth for the next season. Yeah. And I think this gave you just enough to be enticed. Because, like, they didn't go into how come hardcore is hardcore or how come this person... Like, they didn't get into that too much.
They didn't go that deep.
They didn't go that deep, but they left themselves room to explore these characters in another way. Yeah. It was more about the interpersonal connections between all of them. And, having... Like, seeing Aquaman and Flash at the very end, I was like... That's just a surprise that you just are like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that was tight.
and doing it that way was really cool. It was like, oh, like this is connected. Like if somebody says this, bring in what's the name, Justice League. You're like, oh yeah, there's no way they can do that. This show doesn't have that budget.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they find a clever way of getting around
Especially when you're talking about DC Comics and how they be doing with Batman, like. I don't know if you've ever watched any of the TV shows specifically that got anything remotely to do with Batman. They be so stingy with letting them Bammers use the Batman imagery. Like that show Gotham. You remember that?
Uh-huh.
I watched that joint all the way through. This Batman was in a Batman costume for like 5 seconds at the very, very end of the last episode of the show. they had like two different Jokers on that show that none of them could be called the Joker or anything like that.
Yeah.
They had to be like, just kind of sort of look the same, have different name and all that. DC be real stingy with their stuff. So the fact that you see some of that start to like change a little bit is like exciting.
The fact that there's no, because okay, if you're going to do a show like Gotham, and you're going to go into like, you're going to go into what this show was like. If you're going to go into like, because that was an interesting take on Gotham.
Yeah.
I did not know about anything about the Falcones and all the rest of the crime bosses in the city.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great 4 or 5 season look at that. That should have immediately went straight into the next Batman movie with this guy with that origin
been tied together really great.
It should have been like, because then that universe that everyone's used to should have made sense within what's going on.
It's funny because they about to like basically like not the same people who made Gotham, but they about to redo Gotham. Like off this Batman movie, they got a show coming out about like Gotham PD and the crime underworld and all that.
Yeah, I watched that movie last Sunday. Me and somebody went to see it, and it was like felt like Law and Order with Batman in it.
Yeah.
It was 3 hours of that, and it was like
I'm going to see it this evening, I think.
Set pieces wise, visually wise, it hits all the themes.
Yeah.
DC, it has to do a thing where we have to differentiate our brand from Marvel, so we can't be the funny Disney jazz hands.
Yeah.
So we have to be dark and broody and all. So and for me, I'm just like, you can add a little bit more funny to it, like. 3 hours of like
I don't know, man. It's Batman, and I feel like this, like that's specifically Batman, just not DC Comics as a whole, but we're talking specifically Batman. There's always been like a push and pull between that shit what you talking about, and I feel like with Batman, it's got to be the one where you take out all that goofy shit. You know what I'm saying? Like back in so I was watching about the Christopher Nolan movies, like a little documentary joint. And they were talking about how back in the 70s and 80s when all like the Super Friends cartoons and all that were out.
Yeah.
How, how they was like super corny and shit. Back then, 70s Batman wore blue and gray. That whole, everybody was super like cartoony and shit. The thing was the industry was like cartoons are for kids. And that didn't change until Batman the Animated Series. That was the first like cartoon period that was like, I guess in the U.S. that was like that dark, you know what I mean? Like it just didn't make cartoons like that. And if you remember the movies that came out around the animated series, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, they were all like campy, corny slightly, you know what I mean? Even though Batman Returns people think was really dark, it was still real like corny, you know what I'm saying? And that's why when Batman Begins came out, they considered it groundbreaking because they took all that shit out and had like a Batman origin story, and everybody was like, oh my god, this is what we've always wanted. And this Batman movie is like, I feel like the pinnacle of all that shit, because all the chains are taken off now. Like this is what everybody wanted out of Batman. We didn't want to hear nobody laughing and telling no jokes. Like that ain't Batman.
Okay, I think there's a couple exit ramps between George Clooney, Batman, those movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman and Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
I watched the beginning of Batman and Robin a couple weeks ago, and like that joint. I don't know if I sent y'all the video, but it took like 15 seconds for that movie to get extra corny, right?
Yeah,
it's like the beginning is that Batman and Robin about to go out on a mission. They showing them putting all like gear, put on the cowl, close up on the wrist, put the glove on, and twist shit.
I saw it.
And then they pull up their pants. They show both of their asses and shit.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
and flap the cape. Yeah.
It took that long for that movie to get stupid as shit.
No, here's the thing. There's and that's campy, and that's I get that. I don't want that either. Like when Batman whips out his Black American Express and like that. Like, no.
Yeah. I'll get drive-through.
Yeah, no. Like, not that.
Yeah.
I do think there is a marriage between that and it being devoid of all sort of like there could be ironically funny things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be 3 hours long. Holy, if I'm going to be in a dark movie theater watching dark sets, I can't. And I'm in a movie theater and I'm leaning back in my seats and I'm like that. Like I need to like have not color, but a little bit more interesting in the dialogue. But it's cool. Like I said, I didn't have a problem with them.
They tried that halfway in between shit, halfway in between super corny and super serious. And it was like one of the most hated DC movies ever. So much so that they had to bring out the director's cut that was twice as long.
Oh, you talking about the
Justice League?
The Justice League.
When they tried to do it halfway, and it made Batman look stupid. Like it made him look like insignificant and whack. Like
that movie was just bad in general. Though.
Yeah, it was bad in general. But like that was one of the main things that they changed with the script is like the dialogue with like the the quirky back and forth and the jokes and Cyborg saying "booyah" and all that dumb shit. That was one of the major changes to the script that like changed the whole entire movie. And one of those things was all them jokes like Batman sitting there like, oh shit, and stuff like that, or like everybody flying away and this nigga like, damn, I can't fly. It's just shit like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I just see what was it? Those back in the day, those Justice League cartoons and stuff.
Yeah.
I just think there's a way of doing it where it's not so dreary and like life is already tough, man. I don't need to walk out of the movie theater.
I feel you, and I feel you and everything. But like go see a Superman movie or like some shit like Spider-Man, any of these other hero like.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
If that's like what I'm looking for. If they were to
make a Dracula movie and that nigga was walking around in the daytime smiling at people and shit, you'd be like, the fuck is this? Like he a vampire, dog. Like what is he doing? You should go on that joint and see if they got any Batman Arkham games on there. Yo.
Oh yeah, I've seen them. I've seen those played. Yeah,
Arkham City and Arkham Knight. I will go play one of them joints because, well, first off, I heard that they took a good amount of inspiration from them games because I've always said that them 3-4 games that they made have like way better storylines and everything than any movie that's like ever come out and like Batman wise, like, and they took a lot of inspiration from them games and then building this character.
And because I feel like Hollywood, and this is an indictment on Hollywood. Hollywood has wants to serve masters that have nothing to do with the overall.
They want to catch as many people as possible, usually, right?
And they're never trying to actually go for like like you saying, true Batman fans. Yeah. They're trying to get because they already automatically assume they have the Batman fan because he's putting on a cape and he has the whole symbol and everything. Yeah. Versus in a movie, in a game like that, it's pure fan service or video gamers. So it's sort of like it's a video game, so I don't have to cater to people who play video games. I can then now focus my energy on making the Batman.
Yeah.
And see, that's the opposite of whenever you're doing in a movie, you have to get everybody that isn't a Batman fan to go want to see a movie about the Batman.
And when they first made Batman Begins in 2005, one of the conversations between that movie and the Batman and Robin before it was like, every time they go to make one of these movies, the executive was like, all right, cool, whatever, but like, how are we going to sell toys? How are we going to merchandise this? I think even Zack Snyder was talking about when he was making Justice League, they were like, I can't have my kids hearing Batman say something. I forget what it was he was going to have them do or say. I can't have kids hearing him say that. And it was like, this ain't like, you got to get away from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're thinking kids and, their parents are buying them the toys and the merchandise, and that's how you make the most money. And nobody was willing to move away from that.
But here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about that. I remember being a kid in the 90s and that the same thing I just criticized about, George Clooney and all the rest of them. I had a large amount of toys from just that era.
Yeah, just them two movies. Like, not even talking about the one that came out in 89 when, like, I was a year old, or 92. Just the two, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Them two joints that period of time, they had, like, all these toys, the Game Boy games, the all the video games and all that. Like, shit was wild. And
I had the Batmobile and everything.
Yeah, I think I had a Batmobile. I had a few action figures. I had the little Batman Forever game on Game Boy, and then the joint on, like, I forget what system I had it on.
So it doesn't matter if it bombed at the box office.
Yeah.
They were going to make their money back and all the other stuff.
And that was the way they were always going to do them superhero movies because that's how they always worked out, right?
Hell, even when they do an animated TV show, that goes into play.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because for me, like you said, you should be a slave to what's the comic book and the people who wrote it, and not necessarily a slave to the consumer. But like I said, that's a lot of things in America are consumer facing.
It sounded like these guys that made the latest Batman movie. It sounds like the thing they got right is the fact that in order to reach that wide audience that you're trying to reach, and also tell a Batman story, it's way better to lean 100% on the Batman part and make a good ass movie.
Yeah, no, that's what they did.
Yeah, that's what it seems like they did. I really hope that like my plans don't change and I get to see that joint this evening because I've been waiting too long.
Like I said, my biggest criticism is going to be, and this is just in any movie. This has nothing to do. There's nothing to do with
I know
Batman.
what you're about to bring up. That made me think of something. Go ahead.
It's going to be, if you're going to have it 3 hours long, I don't see why any story that you can be told that you're trying to get people to be invested in emotionally can be told in 2 hours in versus 3. And if you need to have 3 hours, then you need to make that a different movie and then go from there. That's just me.
I guess you're that's not what I thought you was going to say. I thought it was going to something we mentioned earlier, which is really just a thing on preference because the darkness, like people so. I got 3 examples. This movie, the Daredevil movie that came back out with Ben Affleck back in the day, and that one episode of Game of Thrones, when they fought the White Walkers and all that.
Yeah,
those are 3 things where a lot of people were like, I don't like this shit because it's too fucking dark. And it was like a really polarizing thing because
adjust your settings on your TV.
That
was like the best episode of that season. That was literally like that was the highlight. The torches going out. If you have that any more light, that
don't work.
It doesn't. Yeah, see, that's different.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were gonna say.
No,
that's one of them things that people just gonna argue about forever.
No. I like I said. I think, like I said, my ultimate thing was the amount of time I was in the dark versus it being like
that. There is becoming a point of conversation though, because and that's why I was saying the way you're thinking is going against the industry trend right now because movies are in general
they're making them longer.
Yeah, like blockbusters like that. They're all inching closer to 2.5, 3 hours these days.
And that's interesting because every other aspect of life is inching more over towards short bit, and I guess that's kind of what I'm used to.
It was a thing where the industry, we talk about the execs and the people that kind of hamper these superhero movies because of decisions they make high up. That was one of the things back in that day too, and that's starting to shift. They were the same. It was a better business decision to make an 1.5-hour movie, bar none, no matter what. So you was gonna have to get close to that if you wanted to get this movie out. And now they're starting to relax that, I think.
Yeah, no, and I think the success of Avengers Endgames, the second one when it was long, when they felt like they can get away with that, then and that's cool. And
these comic book joints, these stories, these heroes, they be really, really, really fucking detailed. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem with no 3-hour superhero movie, almost no matter who it is, unless it's gonna be some shit. Unless I think beforehand that's gonna be some ass, I don't really mind a 3-hour superhero movie.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us again. Mimi will be back next week.
Yep.
And have a great week.
See ya.